The way you trade is the way you treat yourself. Every decision you make in the market reflects the relationship you have with you. And until that relationship changes for the better, your results won't either. So if you are ready to improve your trading results, stick around. You are listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. I am your host, Agnieszka Wood, a trading mindset coach and a seasoned day trader with over a decade of experience. If you are new to my show, don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for the next episode. In this podcast, we explore the fascinating world of psychology and the human element of trading. We take a deep dive into different perspectives to inspire you and help you navigate the emotional ups and downs of trading with self-compassion and confidence. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, this podcast is your trusted companion providing support on your trading journey. Get ready to boost your confidence and unlock the secrets to mastering your mindset for success. Welcome to episode 66, Trading with Yourself, the relationship that shapes every decision. Greg is here with me again. Welcome back, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Fantastic to be here.
I am so happy to see you again. And for you guys, if you have tuned into our last episode, we talked about the power of building connections with others and how real relationships can make you a better trader. Today, we are taking that conversation a step deeper into the connection that matters even more, the one you have with yourself, that is self-love. Because how you relate to yourself shows up in every trade you take. And before we dive in, let's talk about what self-love actually means, especially in trading. Because self-love in trading isn't about just affirmations or bubble baths. It's really about how you treat yourself when you lose, when you mess up, or when things don't go your way. So, how does lack of self-love shows up in trading? Have you ever experienced it from yourself, or what do you see from other traders?
Oh yeah, from the self-love perspective in the very beginning, um, for me, it was very difficult because you have to rely on me and me alone. So I had to figure out my own strategy, and I had to, figure out what my risk tolerance was, and then I had to figure out, okay, am I able to do this? Am I good enough to do this? Am I worthy enough to do this? And all those questions, sometimes they didn't get answered right away. And I struggled for a while, and I would take losses and feel as though that they were a direct result of me being not ready. And that meant that I wasn't good enough. That meant that I wasn't smart enough. That meant that I couldn't trade. And all of those things that I kept taking as, hits to my ego, and my own self-worth was really just at the basis of not giving myself the understanding of loving myself outside of the ability to trade, feeling as though I've done enough that I can put myself in a position to become a trader, to value what I've done in my life, to value the ability and the concepts to understand trading. And all of those things really started to pile up for me once I started to recognize it's so much about the grace and space that I give myself to love me for me, not for my wins and losses in trading, not for what I did or didn't do, just the ability to love, you know, everything that I am as a human is different than everything I do as trading. And I used to bundle those all up into one, and they are just so very, very different. So when I was able to separate them and figure out how to love myself, I started to become a little bit more successful at trading.
That is so well said, because a lot of times we equate what we get with who we are and what we are worth for ourselves, but also for others. And that feeling of I am not worthy of success sometimes, right? I'm not
Hmm.
worthy to get the best, builds this toxic relationship with yourself because you are actually beating yourself up constantly for your mistakes. Like that feeling of you have to deserve to get something or you have to deserve to be successful. And if you look at that from a perspective of self love, that's a very harsh approach. It means automatically, like if you have to deserve something, that means that you are not good enough to have it. And when on top of that, you have a dose of perfectionism, that is just like adding fire to the whole cycle, right? Because it's never good enough, which means you will never be worthy enough to have what you want. And that perpetuates that cycle, which creates frustration, which creates anger, shame, and guilt, and all those negative emotions that creates that toxic relationship with yourself. Because how can you build loving relationship with yourself where all those negative emotions are at the basis of it, right?
Yeah.
So you keep asking the market to give you something that you are not even giving yourself. You're asking for money from the market, but then on the inside, you feel you don't deserve the money. You're asking for fulfillment, but you know from the inside that it is never good enough. So you can never feel fulfilled. And that creates this constant dissonance in how you feel about yourself and striving for something that you know you will never reach.
Yeah. It's one of those, uh, there's never going to be enough to fill that bucket, no matter what it is. There's a hole or multiple holes inside that bucket of self-love that you're carrying. And you can pour as much water and self-worth as you want into that, but until you start realizing that you can be worth every single thing that you choose to value, what you choose to strive after, what you choose to get, what you think you deserve, all those things are part of aspects of self-love that you have to be able to recognize you are 100% worth it. And a lot of that comes from, well, at least it did for me. A lot of it came from comparison and on
Mm,
how I chose to view my own self. And I, even everything that I chose to do was, okay, well, if you're doing that, then I need to do that. And that just put more holes in my bucket because I tried to
right.
live someone else's life. I tried to figure out what it was that they were doing to feel self-love and help and acceptance and worthiness and all of those things that come along with it. So at the root really of what I had done was comparison. And that ruined a lot of the ability for me to give myself self-love, truly understanding that no matter where I was and what I was doing, I needed to be able to believe in myself, to love myself, and to be able to value that what I was doing was going to be good for me in a way that isn't egotistical or self centered, where it's not arrogance. It's just a belief that, yes, I am worth this. I can do this. And the more that I compared to other people, the less that I felt worthy.
Yes, because when you compare yourself to others, you are looking outside of yourself. And self
Mm-hmm.
love, as the word says, it has to come from inside, from yourself, and not from the outside. So automatically you get that discrepancy between where you are and where other people are. And when you say, okay, those people are successful and they love each other, I don't think even that whole loving part comes very naturally to people to think about it. Because when you're a trader, you're not thinking consciously, oh, I don't love myself. I don't think anyone really think that, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that is so far away from our focus of attention, self-love, that even when you mention self-love in trading, for some people it's like, what does that has to do with anything, right? Like, I'm here to make transactions, I'm here to watch the charts, and it is all process oriented. There's no self-love involved here. It's like some sort of blah blah, and very softy approach. But you got to understand that when you are comparing yourself to other traders and you are looking at yourself and saying, oh, and I'm not there yet and I'm not good enough, you are actually rejecting yourself. And from rejection, again, there are only negative feelings coming out of that. There was one more thing you mentioned about egoism and being self centered. I think the tragedy is that when we are growing up, we are told not to be egoistic, and that thinking about yourself is egocentric.
Mm-hmm.
And misunderstanding about taking care of yourself and loving yourself and mixing it up with being an egoist is what makes it so convoluted and not easy for people to understand. So how can I take care of myself and not be egoistic, right? Because you don't want to be egoistic. So what is the flip side of it? You become someone who constantly gives and who constantly please other people, which we'll talk about it in a minute because that's like a topic in itself. But having a very clear line between being egoistic and loving yourself and taking care of yourself, acting in your best interest, there is a clear split in between. And if you can take care of yourself, then you can also take care of other people. But if you don't care about yourself and you don't take care of yourself, at some point it's going to affect other people. And that's egoistic in my mind.
100%.
If everyone takes care of themselves, then there's basically no one to take care of, right? If you can take care of yourself, that would be like the ideal situation. But because there's so many people who are always looking outside and going to give everything I have, and finally they find out it's like, I'm empty, I have no energy, and I have only been giving and giving and giving, and now I have nothing else to give, and look at me, I'm miserable. Now that person needs care. And who can take care of that person? Of course, you're looking outside because you have been giving all this time. So your expectation is, all right, now it's my time. You got to give it to me. So there is this constant deficit being created and not fulfilled.
Yeah, no question at all, because of how you view being the me first attitude versus everyone else first attitude. There is a gray area, and that gray area is one of the most important areas you need to be in, because you can still give to other people without draining everything that you are. But you can also love yourself without alienating everyone else or being a detriment to everyone else around you.
Right.
And that gray area that you sit in, it's not enormous. It is a difficult place to straddle. And once you get there and you start to recognize what it feels like to say to other people or whatever you're around, or individuals, groups, to say, I would really love to be able to do that, but I just can't right now. And I just need some time for me just to be able to get to a place where I know I'll be able to help better and more efficiently down the road. But for right now, that's just not the space for me. Rather than going, I would never in a million years help you. Go find somebody else who cares.
Right.
Then that's when you've done the self-love is now turned into, oh, me first, screw everybody else. And that's dangerous.
And you said it really well. Find someone else who cares, because that means that then you don't care. But in my experience is that the more you love yourself, the more you care about others. And your actions are always a reflection of yourself. So there is no way that when you truly love yourself and take care of yourself, that your actions will be not caring for others. And it's all about the intention, right? I think it's important to realize is that we always make impact on others, whether you do something, but also when you don't do something, we always make an impact. And what happens a lot is that we give responsibility for how we feel to other people. And when you do that, and then you start trading, you do that also with the market. So you create that emotional dependency where you say, I want the market to make me feel good about myself. And market won't do that because market is a tool, but it is not a tool to make you feel better. It's the tool that helps you to make you feel good about you.
Yeah.
And this is not happening through the money. And creating that emotional dependency is what creates the emotional roller coaster in trading. But if you can detach yourself from those results, from the market emotionally, and realize that this is you who decide how you feel about you and not someone else, not the market, and you cannot say things like, oh, you just made me angry. People don't make you angry. It's you who make you angry based on what happens outside of you. And I think that this is one of the biggest part of egoism. If you give the blame to someone for how you feel, that is to me egoistic.
It is. It 100% is. And in the same way that you had said that beautifully when offload your emotional support or your emotional need to other individuals, you then are devaluing your own self, your own self-love. We've said this before in previous episodes. There's a reason we don't tell you exactly what to do in your trading strategy. Because if you don't feel as though you're worthy enough to develop your own trading strategy by learning, you're offloading your ability to take responsibility and ownership and self-love to us because we have a trading strategy and you just want that. In the same way that you would offload your emotional, dependency on someone else to make you feel as though you're worthy. Well, you want a trading strategy from us to make sure that you feel as though you're a worthy trader. That's the same concept and idea. You just have to do that in life. You have to do that in trading. You have to do that in every other single thing that you choose to do in your life. It's self-love, self-worth, and things that will bring you the happiness and joy that makes you feel like you've accomplished it to move forward in whatever direction that is. And that's in trading, in markets, and every aspect of swing trading, of day trading, of trading crypto, trading, futures, whatever it is that you choose to do. Those are all different strategies and concepts. But at the basis of every single one of them is, do you value yourself enough to take the time
Right.
to learn it? And that's your self-love.
I think this is the good moment to segue to pleasing other people because one of the biggest obstacles is expectations, right? We create expectations from ourselves, and this is what makes us a lot of times not feeling enough. But what about being a people pleaser? So trying to fulfill expectations from others, whether they are real or not real, or we think they expect something from us. How do you see that? Have you experienced it on yourself being a people pleaser, and how did that influence your trading?
Yeah, I had done that for God. I would arguably I would say about 25 years of my life. I lived that, and everything that I did, it was people pleasing.
I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure you're not alone living that for such a long time. I can say from myself, I've been living in that for a long, long time.
Yeah, and it is a struggle because once you develop that concept normally at a younger age, and how that gets instilled in you or what is reflected in how you choose to go about things is you grow up with that attitude or that mentality. And the longer you carry that, the more you feel as though that is your way of going about things, that is your way of life. And the more you continue to please other people, trading becomes very difficult for you because there's no one else out there for you to please. There's no one else out there for you to get results for or from. It is a market. It is not a human. It is a chart. It is not emotion. And everything that you get from that is only dependent on you, for you, by you. So if you are people pleasing and you go about that way of your life, it is extremely, extremely important to be able to learn the narrative that your self love in whatever it is that you choose to do in your life needs to give you results that makes you feel calm, comfortable, and confident. And once you begin to set aside the people pleasing, you start to recognize, oh, okay, I'm only in this for me right now. So this trading, there's not 40 people in this room for me right now. It's just me and this screen. I got nobody else. This is my money. I've invested it. This is my time. This is my strategy. This is for me. So the results are only going to be for me. Those are very, very different strategies about going how you see life wholeheartedly, from relationships to your relationship with trading to your relationship with yourself. All of those things will boil down to the aspect of, are you willing to love yourself enough to put the time, effort, and energy in to get calm, confident in what you choose to do? People pleasing won't give it to you.
Absolutely. From my own experience, I think that people pleasing is like the second step of not loving yourself. So, what you are not getting from yourself when you don't feel worthy, now you start looking outside and you start trying to get it from other people, right? So, you basically looking for external validation so you can feel good about yourself. You, whether it's respect, whether you look for admiration, or simply being accepted. I know I have struggled with rejection my whole life since I was very young. And everything that I was doing in my life was to get that validation of I am being loved. And that resulted in many good things in my life because, yes, I'm a high achiever. I have achieved a great success in many areas of my life. But question is at what cost, right? And in trading, it was definitely a fight because market wouldn't give me that validation, and I had to find a source of self-love within myself to stop looking for that validation. And when you're a trader, you often find out very quickly that you cannot find the validation from other people for your trading, because the moment that you tell someone you are trading, they look at you with the eyes like you just came from the moon, right? They either have no idea what you're talking about, or instead of giving you a validation, they look with pity at you and kind of treat it like, yeah, that's not something to be proud of, right? So you cannot get that validation from there too.
Yeah.
What I've learned is that if your worth depends on what other people think or what your P&L says, then trading will keep breaking your heart. That is absolutely has been the true for me, and I see it from many, many traders. And you got to stop breaking your own heart. You have to love yourself enough to have a loving relationship with you so that you don't have to break your heart, because this is a long-term relationship. When you build it, it's important that you feed it, just like you would water a plant, just the right amount, but on a consistent basis, right amount of love, right amount of energy, right amount of discipline as well, and being honest with yourself. Every relationship requires integrity, honesty, respect, love. All those things is what your relationship with yourself needs as well. This whole idea of putting yourself first and people pleasing and also trusting your own voice reminds me of something from when I was young. And that was definitely, when you said those things are forming early on, that is definitely what happened here. That's why probably it kind of popped up. back then, when I was young, I was terrified of being rejected, as I mentioned. I was looking for love and confirmation that I am deserving of love. So whenever my friends and I talked about music, and I remember we had this magazine that was called Bravo at that time, and my whole room was, all walls were covered with posters of musicians. Okay. That was a beautiful time. And, when we looked at the magazines, we talked about which band or a singer we liked.
Yeah.
And I would always wait to hear what they said first. And if someone said, "Oh, I love this artist," I would immediately agree and I say, "Yeah, me too." And then they would change their mind and they say, "Oh, I actually like this one." And I would say, "Oh, yeah, me too. I like this one better." So eventually they started teasing me, saying that, you always pick the ones we like. What do you like? Tell us first. And I would refuse to do that because I did not wanted the situation when I say I like this one and they say they like someone else. I did have my own opinion, but I was just terrified to like something different because if I did, I wouldn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And that same pattern shows up in trading all the time. And traders don't even realize it, but when you are afraid to trust your own judgment, when you follow what everyone else is doing or constantly look for validation, you are doing the same thing. You are abandoning your own truth just to feel safe, just to belong, just to avoid that discomfort. And that's why self love in trading isn't about being soft or selfish. It's about standing in your own truth, even when there is a fear or feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. And, phenomenally said, beautifully, eloquently told story because there's so many of us out there that can resonate with that, me included. That when you're growing up, your ability to even figure out who you are is an entire struggle in itself. And the earlier that you can figure it out, the better you'll be later on in life. But there's so many of us, me included. This did not happen for me until, God, probably mid 30s, early 30s. And
Right.
I started to recognize all the steps that I had taken to view myself of worthiness in the sports that I played and what position I played. I wanted to play point guard as basketball because the point guard was the guy who ran the team. Like you needed to know all the positions on the floor. You needed to, dribble the ball up. You needed to call the play. You needed to do everything and set it up. That made me valuable. That made me feel as though I had a place. And I wanted to hang out with the cool kids because the cool kids felt as though they had a place and people looked up to them. And I wanted to have, attractive females from high school to college and after around me because it made other males look at me and go, oh my God, he's got it figured out. And everything that I did was just people pleasing to the comparison of what everyone else in life was doing. And that's what I thought success and self love meant was to look at everyone else in life and go, oh, okay, if that's what you're doing, I'll do it. And you lose every sense of your own being. You rob yourself of your authenticity so that you can find confidence in the things that you choose to go about through in life, no matter what it is that you choose, even in trading. That confidence that we talk about consistently is really developed by you knowing your own strategy. You're going to learn different strategies from different people, and you may take bits and pieces from different people, but your confidence ultimately in trading is your strategy. And your strategy has to come from a place of you valuing yourself enough and loving yourself enough and not comparing yourself to anyone who's out there trading. And just knowing that you can do this in the same way that you could have spoken up and said your favorite band,
Right.
but you didn't.
And the figuring out who you are, it's throughout your life. It's exactly the same process for when you start trading and you figuring out what kind of trader you are. It's exactly the
Yeah.
same. You are looking for your identity as a trader and
Mhm.
your strategy, accepting the fact that maybe you don't have the risk tolerance as other traders, or maybe you just simply don't want to trade every day, right? And accepting that from yourself, for yourself, is part of the self love that is looking at you, asking yourself, what is it that I need? What is it that I want, regardless of everyone else? Because the more pressure you put on yourself and people pleasing, expectations, all those things, they do create more pressure. And then performing under pressure is so much more difficult because it's paralyzing.
It is.
And one thing that you said about when you were talking about people pleasing, you mentioned boundaries. I think that's a very important element of your relationship with yourself. Defining very clearly what are your boundaries. So really setting the boundaries for yourself as a person in relationship to other people and in relationship to yourself. How far you as a trader do you let the market come closer to you? How far do you let the market go before it hurts you? And I think this is a matter of boundaries, because when you are not even sure, like look at your trading right now and ask yourself, by taking big losses, what am I doing to myself? Like, why am I letting the market do this to me? Because it is not the market that does it. You are allowing that. And if this is you, then definitely the topic of self-love and working on releasing the emotional attachment to the market is something that could be your next focus point, because that would absolutely improve your relationship with yourself and your results.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And I would equate what just popped into my mind when you were saying that was the concept and ideas inside trading of boundaries are your stop losses. So if you go about life and you don't have boundaries about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do and what will compromise you and what will put you in the best position, those are the same as your stop losses. And if you're trading without them, you're setting no boundaries.
That's so
You're
good.
setting no boundaries on what you're willing to lose, on what you're willing to gain. And if you're willing to do that, then that's usually an indication that in life you haven't even set your correct, true boundaries to love yourself.
That is so good. Stop loss. It actually literally says it, right? It stops the loss, but it also stops making a bigger void within yourself. Like if you think that the
Mm-hmm.
money, like if there is a thought in your head, if I can make money, then I can finally be enough, or then I can finally be happy, I can finally feel good about myself. That is emotional attachment to results. And that is something that creates more void, just like the loss creates a void. You can, when you lose money and you feel not good about yourself, that means that there is too much attachment. And then the chart becomes a mirror of your self esteem, and every loss feels like a personal failure. And the result of all that is overtrading, revenge trading, impulsive behaviors, and all behaviors that try to fill that void of not feeling enough. So you can ask yourself, when is it enough? What do you think you need, whether it's in terms of money or how good you trade or even outside of trading, that will make you feel good enough? And you will find out that there is no amount of money that can do that. You might think that this will happen, but look at situations where you had a big win. Was that enough? Or did you become greedy? Did you want it more? So apparently that does not fill the void, right? So there is that the void that you're trying to fill from outside can only be filled from inside.
Always. Always. I just had a conversation yesterday with an individual that I help um, pretty consistently. And I had said, your expectations will rob you of the joy that is now. And every single time you set an expectation of, oh, I'm going to make enough money, or I'm going to have a big win, or whatever that is, that's never been enough for you. So your expectations are literally robbing you of every bit of your progress, of your joy, of your happiness, of your self worth, of your self love, because you're waiting until you get to a certain point. And proof is exactly how you said it. If you think that is true and you reach that goal, and then you set that goal again and again and again, it's never enough. It isn't enough.
Right.
You're setting your expectations and your progress wrong, and your own self-worth and your own self-love wrong, because you'll never find it in the next thing or the next result or the next outcome.
Totally.
You'll always only find it in you.
Totally. So let's talk about how to practice self-love, because self-love is not something that just comes at you from heaven and suddenly come over you and it's like a warm bath. This is something you can actually practice. And let's talk about it, how you can practice it as a trader, because I think most people have an idea how to spoil themselves, even though they might not do it, right? Taking a bubble bath and treating themselves on a really nice dinner or a trip out of town. How do you do that as a trader? Let's make this more actionable and grounded. So I think one of the things that is absolutely key is to redefine your success and look at the success more as a self-alignment as opposed to how much money you want to make. So start asking yourself, did I act in line with who I want to be, how I want to show up, instead of did I make money? Was it like, if I ask you, was it a good day? Don't say it was a bad day when it was a red day. Build pride in following the process. Focus on the process, not the result. Remember that money is a result of your efforts, and it should never be the reason for your efforts.
Agreed.
Self-love means celebrating integrity over outcome, sticking to your plan, sticking to your rules, following the process. If you redefine success like that, you will see so much more fulfillment and feeling good about yourself. And that will help you to actually do it, more of it, and disconnect emotionally from the results, no matter what they are, whether they're great or whether they're less great. Any other things that we can recommend?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly struggled with it in the very beginning. And what I had seen in my own life was the idea and concept that I needed to reach a certain fill in the blank, a goal. I needed to reach a title, whatever that may be. If you want to define that as success, you can define it as success. But it was a fill in the blank for me. Um, and what I recognized was, for the way that I chose to go about life needed to shift so drastically that how I chose to take care of myself was the only way that I would ever get to a certain thing that I needed to accomplish, and feel as though that I did it, that I didn't follow someone else's path. I didn't follow someone else's, guidance, advice, structure, whatever that may be, that you did it from whatever it is that you did. And that can only come from a place of you finding what sits well with you. Again, I can't tell you the exact thing that you can do, but you probably know what it is. You probably know that, sometimes if you buy someone's coffee in line and that made you feel good, follow that.
Yeah, so is that intuitive feeling, and sometimes it's an impulse, right? That something is
Yes.
just right. Integrity with yourself.
Yes. That those aspects, you know them, and you will feel them. And the moment that you choose to follow that path, regardless of however the people view you, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the expectations, it's at the core of what you feel as though you made the right decision. And when you start with the smallest of right decisions, I honestly do not care what that is. Yeah, I don't care if that's getting up in the morning and choosing to brush your teeth first. Great, good for you. If that makes you feel good, double down on those feelings. Don't look
Yeah.
at us, don't look at everyone else, and don't pay attention to all of the noise that's in the outside world. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one that's going to be able to answer truly that question. And if that means it's business, go for it. If that's trading, go for it. If that's finding a partner that you can love, but knowing that the only way to truly love someone is to put yourself in the best position to be the best version of you and allow other people to be the best version of themselves while giving them support and help and guidance to be the best version that they can. That's when you can find true love for yourself. That's when you're able to give it. You're never going to be able to give something if you don't possess it.
That's so good, because emotions and what you feel is like your inner compass. And the things that feel good, it means that you are doing something in alignment with yourself. And when you feel off, when you're forcing yourself, when you feel pressure, you're going off track. So really following that feeling of integrity of this feels in line with me. That is such a great advice, to always focusing on that, on feeling good and multiplying it. Do what works for you, right? One thing that's from a practical perspective that I would like to recommend is prioritizing self-care like a trading rule. So scheduling recovery time the same way as you schedule your trades, because everyone only talks about trading, but you have to understand that when you are exposing yourself to the market, your body needs a recovery time after that, because there is a lot of pressure, a lot of emotional capital is being used, and you need to recharge. So before you sit in front of your computer again, in front of your charts, you got to be rested. You got to be emotionally balanced. And that equals much better performance. So add a daily check in before you sit at the charts. Put it into your process. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? Am I grounded enough to trade? And give yourself honest answer, because I know that a lot of times we kind of brush stuff like, oh yeah, sure, I'm good. Ask yourself really inside, am I prepared? How am I? What is it that is in my head right now as an intention? Am I sitting here thinking, oh, I need to make money? Because if you do, no wonder you will be telling yourself, oh, I'm good to trade. Of course, your head is going to tell you anything you want to hear, right? Because you will always prove yourself right. So you deserve to be honest with yourself, have that integrity, build that integrity with small steps. It was actually really interesting. So I started recently this new workout program. And in general, I don't go to like public classes at the gym, right? I do all my workouts at home, whether it's yoga or any other workout. And I said to my husband, I said, I have my workout appointment tomorrow at 7:30. And he said, where are you going? I said, nowhere. I have my appointment with myself. And he said, but why is it so specific at 7:30? I said, because I made an appointment with myself at 7:30. And he had to laugh. But this is exactly what I mean. If you make an appointment, make a promise to yourself, just like you make with other people, and keep it. And if it is easier to keep it for you when you make an appointment at a certain time, do that with yourself as well. Treat yourself with respect. Don't let yourself down. Because if you do that, this will bleed to how you trade as well. How you treat yourself is how you treat your trades. It's just you there. So build that integrity. And I have to say that this is really working very well for me, making appointments with myself, because that also shows me how much I care and how much integrity I have. And that builds on, that adds confidence. And when you trade and you have a plan, you need the confidence that you can trust yourself, that you will stick to your promises.
Every time. That is a brilliant, brilliant way of creating an agreement with you and you alone. No one has any idea. We didn't know you set an agreement for yourself to have a workout at 7:30. That's just between you and you. And if you choose to honor it, that's up to you. If you choose to disengage, that's up to you. But it's a direct reflection of self-love.
And that's, that feeling of like what you said, this is between you and you. Just think about it when you make an agreement with someone and you say, this is just between me and you. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
something special, doesn't it? You just made a pact with another person and it feels so personal. And I can tell you when I'm saying that, I get goosebumps. It just feels like something special. Do that with yourself. This is an agreement between me and me.
Yeah.
And it feels so much in integrity and like, this is really important. This is important to me, and I'm going to stick to that. We talked about emotional boundaries and expectations. This is something that you can practice daily. Don't bring other people's expectations into your charts. That can happen really fast if, for example, before you're trading, you have a disagreement with your spouse about your trading or about anything else, right? About maybe even finances. And the guilt feeling of, I cannot lose because everyone else is expecting I'm going to win. And I promised to my wife that I'm going to make it by, sometimes you even give it a date. All that is creating pressure. Remember, your job as a trader is releasing pressure so that you do not trigger your fight or flight or freeze response, that you keep your nervous system at the right pace where you can perform. So expectations, whether it's your own or other people expectation, please make sure that in the morning you do some journaling or thinking or talking to yourself, however you like to do it, that you will get really clear about what expectations am I bringing into today's trading. If you are drained by trying to please others, your trading clarity disappears. So self-love is about protecting your focus and your peace as a trader. Really, really important. And last but not least, every trader messes up, don't we?
Oh God, yeah. Best advice ever right there.
What matters is how long you stay stuck in guilt. How quickly can you get up? And that's your resilience. Practice your resilience, build your resilience. Remember, in order to get up and go again and detach from what just happened or what happened yesterday or 2 weeks ago, you got to forgive yourself. You don't have to forget it. You can learn from what happened. You have to forgive yourself. This is your trading edge because it frees up emotional capital.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold the grudge, whether it's to other people or to yourself, your emotional capital is already drained and you start with half or empty battery every day. So you got to clean up the mess. And I'm not talking about the mess you made on your account. I'm talking about your emotional mess. How quickly can you detach?
Yeah.
Forgiveness isn't a weakness, it's your emotional risk management.
Yep. 100%. And I will, the last thing I will add is the one of the best quotes ever by Rick Rubin is impatience is an argument with reality.
That is fantastic. I love that.
If you're going to continue to argue with the reality of the charts that are in front of you, your own impatience means that you are not accepting the reality that is in front of you.
Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. It's almost like arguing for your own limitations, right? But
It is. It absolutely is. It argues with emotions. It argues with every single thing that is in front of you in that moment. If you do not accept it and you are impatient with it, you are arguing with reality.
fantastic. So I'm gonna give you guys a food for thought. What if your biggest trading breakthrough has nothing to do with the charts and everything to do with how you treat yourself when no one is watching? So if there's one thing to take away from today's conversation, I would say is this: you can't build consistency in trading without building a healthy, loving relationship with yourself first. When you trade from fear, pressure, or the need to prove your worth, you disconnect completely from your intuition, from your plan, and your peace. But when you trade from self-respect, compassion, and trust, that's when you start showing up differently. You start trading with yourself, not against yourself. And remember, self-love isn't about being perfect or pretending that everything is fine. It's about choosing to have your own back, no matter what happens on the chart. Because the more you treat yourself with patience, honesty, respect, and kindness, the better you trade.
Every day, all day, that counts in trading and in life.
Greg, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed this conversation, as always.
As always, these are still one of the best things I do, one of my highlights of my week. And every time that we do this, sitting here chatting and hopefully helping is honestly, truly one thing that I do set time aside for myself to love myself, because this is one thing that I love, is helping other people.
Wonderful. Thank you again. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will hear each other in 2 weeks. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. If you are enjoying my show, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and tell me what you like about it. Thanks to you, more traders will be able to find me, and together we'll make a bigger impact. So thank you so much. If you are new to my show, don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for the next episode. And make sure to also check some of the previous shows. Thank you again for tuning in. This is Agnieszka Wood from Ahead Coach. Bye for now.